Okay, so the camera we're using today to film all this is a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K with an EF mount.
Awesome. So if it's here, then what's recording us now?
Hold on, that was impressive what I just did.
You got all the model numbers.
It's also a lot of Ks. 6 of them?
It is, yeah. So lots of these are showing up in worship environments.
Yep.
And I mean a lot of them. I think they even went on back order recently.
Yep.
So talk to us.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the reasons they're so popular is one, the price point, right? But also just look how small it is. It's so light. I could have this and I could be a roaming camera op in the house or on the stage, and it's just so small. I can hold it for a long time, and it also has a beautiful image. It has that beautiful soft background cinematic look.
I know that the cameras that are recording this right now are looking at you going, that's a beautiful image.
I mean, what can I say? So again, it's all the same components of a camera. It's just a smaller body. When you want to use one of these for live iMag or live broadcast, there are a few things that you want to keep in mind. Like the monitor that's built in it's like flat on the back. So if I wanted to get a shot with holding the camera down here, I can't really see that monitor. So it's nice to add a monitor, which we did here. That I could reposition this however I need to, so that it helps me operate the camera.
So how do you get video signal out of this? Because I see HDMI. Most live video infrastructures aren't HDMI. Right. It only goes 25, 30 feet before you need to do something to it.
Exactly. So that's one of the challenges with a camera like this is its HDMI output. So if you're most likely if you're in a live environment, you're going to need to convert that to SDI. And you could do that with a small adapter, kind of attached to this rig, or you could have a 25-foot cable that's you're kind of tethered to, and then it gets converted somewhere down the line.
Yeah.
But
there's some wireless options that take HDMI in at the camera, and then on the receiver side is SDI out.
Okay. Exactly. Yep.
So
a lot of different ways to accomplish that. But for me as a video guy, like HDMI is great, but HDMI doesn't lock in here. So if I accidentally step on my cable, that thing's going to pop out. So you want to maybe try to strain relief that to your cage. Which that's another thing to talk about is this camera has this cage around it, because if we were to take this off, there's basically nowhere to mount anything on this camera. So adding a cage like this one helps you. It gives you just tons of flexibility on mounting all your accessories or your wireless transmitters, things like that.
So what about things like COM and Tally?
Yep, can't do it with this guy. You're gonna have to have a separate belt pack, a wireless or wired belt pack. Tally, there's no Tally built into this system. There's also no way to get, well, I shouldn't say no way. So if you have a Blackmagic ecosystem, you can do remote shading of a camera like this. But if you don't have a Blackmagic switcher, then you have to do all of that at the camera. The operator has to do it. And then there's Tally options. There are wireless Tally options that you could attach to the top of this. They interface with your switcher, and when you take that camera live, it sends a wireless signal to that Tally and lights up. So you have to figure out all the ways to add all that stuff onto it, because none of it's really built in.
Yep.
And then with this lens, this is an EF mount, which is a super popular mount. It's made by Canon, and there's gobs and gobs and gobs of lenses out there for EF mount. That's a huge plus. So I can get super long lenses to get long throws a long way from the stage. I can get super wide angle lenses. I can get really fast ones, so I can get that really shallow look. But it's actually a photo lens mount. So this is the same mount that photographers use for Canon DSLRs. And the benefit is, again, lots of options. The downside is there's no iris ring on this. There's no iris or focus or zoom servo. So all of those changes that you want to make are on the camera lens. I'm just manually doing all of that.
Yep. One of the other challenges is that because it is like 6K, which is a lot of resolution, a lot of formats. So when you put it in a live environment, you can hit buttons back here that then all of a sudden change how it works with your production system. And so you got to make sure, the operator has to make sure the settings are set up right.
You don't want to fat finger this thing. And
that's right. And then all of a sudden you switch it into 4K and your system's at 4K, and then you lose signal. And
You also got to figure out power. I mean, this thing takes a little battery. You got to make sure you're on top of your game. You got batteries charged, ready on standby, so you can swap those in and out.
What about recording? So it'll record internally.
Yep.
Are there time limits?
There are. I mean, I think it depends on the camera and the manufacturer, but and each camera can take different kinds of media. But that's one of the differences in a cinematic versus like an ENG camera. A lot of ENG cameras have no onboard recording.
Right.
A lot of times it's recorded back, in the engineering room on some other device. And you can certainly do that with this kind of camera, but you can also capture internally. And when you do, what that gives you is, like for a Blackmagic camera, you can capture raw video. And it's basically like capturing audio without any compression. Just, you can go in post with this video and you can make changes that you wish you would have made while you were filming. Like it's kind of like magic.
That's a huge benefit.
Yeah. So ultra portability, flexibility in terms of application. You can do sort of a live event capture, get a cinematic look that way, but also for, your media team to record.
Exactly, yeah. That's a huge benefit for smaller churches.
Yeah, for a smaller church to be able to do interviews and, videos about events that are going on, promo type stuff. What about for iMag and things like that? Like the distance from us to our cameras that we're recording to today is less than 15 feet.
Right.
What if you're in an environment with a camera like this where you're having to do iMag from further away? Is that just a lens choice? Is there limitations to what you're able to do in that scenario? Like what do people need to look out for if they want this to be kind of their all-in-one solution? Yeah,
there's a lot of things to consider. I mean, larger sensor in the cinematic camera, so every lens is going to be wider. So the same lens like you put on an ENG camera, you put that same focal length on this camera, it's going to be wider. So if you're there's a few like apps that I use to help me like do the calculations and on my iPhone, so I can say, hey, I have this camera, I'm 35 or I'm 50 feet away, and I want to know what kind of lens do I need to be able to get a waist-up shot. So things like that are awesome. And then you can go figure out, okay, well, is there a 200 millimeter lens that works with this? Actually, I need 500 millimeter lens. Does that even exist? If it does exist, it's going to be this big. Can I put this on my tripod? Can it hold that kind of weight? All those kind of considerations.
And then how are you going to control it?
How are you going to control it? Because with a camera like this, you're literally, again, going to be reaching around if you want to zoom or focus. Or you can, again, get third-party accessories to do like follow focus at the controls.
So one of the two largest reasons churches look at this are it looks great and it's cheap.
Yep.
But if you put it in the back of you're 100 feet away from the stage, you may have to put a $20,000 lens on this thing, is what I'm hearing.
Right.
And then all the controls on top of that.
Yeah.
And a $10,000 tripod to hold all that weight. It's just dominoes into each other. So
the other thing in a live environment, when you're doing iMag, you want to see that snare drum hit, hear the snare drum, see the snare drum, you're going to have more latency.
Every time you have to convert the signal,
that's right,
you're adding latency.
So keep that in mind too, because you're going to have that video signal is going to get to your screens later than maybe a broadcast camera would.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people are now using something like this. If you're in a small room, then you can use these everywhere. But if you're maybe in a bigger room, you might do some sort of hybrid combination of cameras where you could get like a Blackmagic Ursa or a different kind of cinema camera or even a broadcast camera for your like back of room, front of house shots.
Yep.
Because those allow you to get closer shots, but then use these for around the stage or walking through the house.
Great.
Just mix them together.